Of all the manipulating manipulators, like, David takes the cake. And I think it's so intense because he doesn't even realize he's doing it. He's just a manipulator. Like, he's just like a sociopath. Hey guys, it's Wahima, but just call me Wah. Melanated! Welcome to my review / recap of 90 Day Fiancé. This one is a specific recap talking about Annie and David from season 5, 90 Day Fiancé, from the episode Second Thoughts. What's on my lips right now is Echo by Kat Von D's Everlasting Liquid Lipsticks. So the reason why I wanted to do this video separately is because I have so much to say about this couple and it would have been a nightmare to try to put it all in one long video. We pick up after the conversation between Ashley and Annie at the restaurant, where Ashley tells Annie that basically her dad is a scumbag who treated her mom like ish and abandoned their family when things got tough. And Annie is like so confused and lost because she didn't know that was the case. And she gets home from there and she's upset and she doesn't want to talk to David about it. And David like is trying to pressure her to have a conversation and she really does not want to talk about it because she just like needs to think about it, needs to absorb it all in, needs to figure out what her next move is going to be. This is a lot of terrible information to get about your spouse. She's just like, I have no idea who he is. Like, who is this person? I have to get to know him all over again. And so she gets upset and she's just like, I need space. So she goes to stay with Chris and Nikki, who are in town because of the wedding. So she goes and she's just like, I want to stay with them. And they're her best friends in the United States at this point, so she bounces and leaves. That makes David very, very upset. And he ends up text messaging the producers the next day to tell them that she walked out. So the producers have a conversation with the both of them and they agree to meet in a park, neutral ground. So they go to this area. Annie shows up in an Uber. She gets out. She's like walking around. Then David shows up in like a suit with like some kind of pin. I don't know if he's a part of like city council or like all of a sudden he's wearing his like deacon's pin. I'm not sure what's going on. And they start to walk and talk. And David is like, so, where do you stand? And she's just like, I really, really don't know. And I have so many questions. And he's just like, well, what are they? Like, what did she say to you? And Annie says, well, she told me that you cheated on your wife. You cheated on her mother. And that's why you guys broke up. And he's like, I told you that. And she's like, you told me? When did you tell me this? We talked about it a year ago. We talked about a year ago that we both had things in our past. You have things in your past. I have things in my past. But the past is just that. The past. And he's like, what? But we didn't talk about you cheating on your wife. Like, we didn't talk about like that. And he's just like, so I guess David feels like having a conversation talking about having a bad past is the same thing as having a conversation telling your intended that you cheated numerous times on the mother of your 2 children with prostitutes. I think he just was like, look, it's in the past. I don't want to talk about it, but hey, I do have a past. So there's your notice. And Annie's just supposed to take that? She's 24 years old and he's like, well, you have a past. And she's like, yeah, okay, but you know my past. And then he goes, well, fine. If you don't want to talk, that's fine. You're young, you'll find somebody, and it won't be here in the United States. You're going to have to go to Thailand. You're going to have to go back. And she's just like, that's what you have to say to me? Yeah, so do you want me to write a letter to your parents and have it translated to tell them what's going on? Because someone's going to have to pick you up from the airport, so. And she's like, don't worry about it. No, I'm good. Don't worry about it. And she walks away. And then he's like, look, if you don't come back with me tonight, if you don't come with me right now, then this is off. This wedding is off. You can go back to Thailand. You can do whatever. We're breaking up. And she's like, I don't get a moment to think. I'm getting all this new information and you won't even give me a moment to think. And he's just like, well, what's you talking about? We all have a past. If you choose Nikki and Chris over me, then that's your choice. You're choosing them over me. Either you come back with me right now or it's over. You're choosing them. And she's like, I don't want to talk about this right now. Like, I have to be happy all the time. Like, I come here and your daughter is rude to me. Then I have another conversation where she tells me that you cheated on your wife incessantly with prostitutes. And I'm supposed to be okay with that. Like, I'm just supposed to smile. I'm not supposed to have any feelings. I'm not supposed to process none of it. This is what it's supposed to be. And he's just like, because it's in the past, it doesn't matter. I didn't cheat on you. And she's like, how do I know you won't cheat on me? He's like, because I learned from it. I won't. I'll never do that. I love you. And she's like, but you can't just say that. I have to have a moment to think about it. And he doesn't want to let her have that moment. He basically puts an ultimatum on her and she's just like, fine, whatever. I'll go back and stay with Nikki and Chris, and we'll talk about it. I'll think about it. And then he goes, oh, well, since you're going back to them, all of a sudden he's jealous of Chris and Nikki. Since you're going back to them, here's Chris's truck. Here, take the truck. Go ahead, take it back to him since that's where you want to go, since you're choosing them over me. She's just like, what? And I'm like, why are you gonna give her the keys to a car? Does she know how to drive? Does she know how to get back? Like, what's wrong with you being dumb? He's just being so dumb and extra and manipulative. Like, so manipulative. So then he walks away. So we're just like, okay, it's over. Like, I guess it's over. It's over. A few minutes later, he tells producer that he wants to talk with her at the restaurant that's right by the park. So she agrees. So she goes in there to talk with him, where he then changes up his tactic and goes from being like super angry at her and blaming her for the reason, and then calling into fact that, like, you know, you're gonna have to find another American to get you to the United States because you're not gonna find an American here. So if that's what you want. So that leads me to believe, like, A, he knows, he understands the exchange. Anyway, so they get in there, he changes up his tactic. And now he's like, I just want to say I'm really sorry. I'm going through so much. I have to pay for the sins of my past. Like, I don't understand, but those things are in the past, and my family, and I want them to love me and to not judge me, but they're so mad at me. And like, it's been really hard for me. Why don't you understand how hard for me it's been coming back to the United States after 4 years and all this stuff happening to me? And then he starts to crocodile cry with no tears. Meanwhile, she's sitting across from him like, but I have feelings too, and I'm allowed to have my feelings too. You can't just make it so that I don't have an opinion or a say or feelings about what's going on around me. I can't just be happy. Let me just tell you all the things that he said, just so like you guys can know how manipulating he is. Like, okay, I can't make you love me. I'm paying for the sins of my past. You know how hard it is for me. You know how difficult it has been for me. I love you, and everything was perfect in Asia. And she's just like, last night, I'm shocked. You know, I when I get upset, I get quiet, and I just felt like I needed time to think, and I went to Chris and Nikki's. Like, that's what happened, and you're telling me that I can't have those feelings. And then she's like, how do I know you're not going to do that to me? And he's like, well, I've learned from my past. Like, what past, David? Can you talk about the past that you've learned from so that we can see if you really learned from it? Oh, no? Cool. Great. That sounds honest. And that sounds productive. Anyway, she then just says, you know, do you still want to marry me? And he says yes. And so then the ring that she left at the house last night, he returns to her, and it's just like, ugh. But what else is Annie supposed to do, you guys? Yeah, she could go back to Thailand and start again, but like, is she going to? Probably not. She's already put so much into this relationship and invested as much into it as she has. The family had a whole party for her. They had a whole engagement scenario for her. Like, she can't just give up on this willy-nilly. Think about what happened in Thailand. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot happened with her family in Thailand. She has to try to stick this out. She has to. So then the next scene with them is David and Chris have a conversation. And Chris is like, yo, like, you know, what's going on? I put a lot of faith in you and a lot of trust in you, and I've been your friend and I've had your back, and the first sign of trouble, you're gonna tell Annie that you're gonna send her back to Thailand? Like, that's not what we're doing. I'm her sponsor, and like, I spent a lot of time and energy and money on y'all, so you better make a better effort to get it together to make this work. And he's just like, oh, I know, you know. And he's like, that was old David. The David who tried to kick her out and tried to move on and like say things are over with, that's old David, and I don't want to see that guy. I want to see new David. You know, I want to see the guy who's trying to make a difference in his life. So like, yeah, Chris knows that he's a scumbag, but Chris just like, you know, it's Captain Save-A-Ho. Captain Chris is what I'm calling him. So they have the conversation. David says he's sorry and he promises that things are gonna get better. Chris is like, you know what? Your family wants to see you fail, but I don't want to see you fail. So don't prove them right. Prove me right. Basically, I need to save face because I told everybody that you're a changed person. So button up, Chuck, and get it together. Papers have already been filed. Monies have already been given over. This is working because Nikki will have my balls if they don't. Chris, I mean, just, don't we all want a sugar daddy best friend like Chris? He tells David that he is going to pay for the wedding because he wants David's wedding to be spectacular so that it shows that he was right all along. So that they're saving face, I guess, to the family and to whomever. Like, that, you know, this wedding is nice and it's a real thing and it's not a sham. It's not a mail order bride situation. It's real. There's real love between them. So Chris is gonna pay for it. So then David goes home with that information. He's very excited. He's taking money again from Captain Daddy Chris. So the next day, Annie and David are in the kitchen, and David's, you know, trying to kind of tiptoeing around things. He says sorry to Annie, but Annie's still in her feelings about the whole situation. You can tell she's looking a little glum. And then he tells her that Chris is gonna pay for the wedding. And she's just like, I think a little nervous about the fact, but then when he says, and so therefore I'll have money for you to get a dress. So here's, take $200 and go get you a dress. And he hands her a credit card. She's so excited because she's like, oh my God, I get to buy a dress. I guess she didn't, never expected that she knows she's going to be able to get her a traditional wedding dress, a US traditional wedding dress, and like all this stuff. So she gets excited, and her and Nikki go wedding dress shopping. When he says that he'll give her $200 to get a wedding dress, I'm like, what kind of wedding dress are they getting? Like, where is this $200 wedding dress? Like, I'm so confused. But they get to this shop, and lo and behold, they have $200 wedding dresses. So Annie tries on a couple of wedding dresses. She gets lost in it, tries on some that are too expensive, but she's starting to see like how the money situation works. And so she's just like, oh, okay, that's expensive, that's expensive. She finally finds a dress that she likes, that looks good on her, and Nikki really enjoys it. It turns out the dress, all said and done, is $318. So she calls David and she tells him, look, I really tried to find a dress that was within the budget, but $318 is what they have, and it's a really nice dress and I like it. And he's like, well, I guess, you know, he doesn't want to say yes to the dress. TLC plug. He's just like, I guess we'll figure it out. I guess, you know, it'll be fine, I guess. And she's just like, okay. So like, yeah, $318, only $118 over budget. Like, they can pull that from something else. You know what I'm saying? Especially if Chris is paying, they can pull it from something else. It'll be fine. So she gets to the counter, and the saleswoman looks at the card and it's just like, well, we'll see. Now, as somebody who's worked in retail for a long time, it looked like a JCP card, not a JCPenney, you guys. JCP is like a creditor abroad, right? US companies don't take that. They need to have a Visa or MasterCard logo. So for whatever reason, David thought that that card would work, and it didn't. Like, homegirl was like,
I just need to call my manager to like run the card again. It's not working.
Karen, can you come to the front desk, please? Embarrassing the hell out of Nikki and Annie. So the woman comes up, tries to run a card, and she's like, no, we don't take this. So is there something else? And like, Nikki's like, here, slides over the Platinum American Express, and it's just like, I'll pay for the dress for right now. And Annie's so happy, but also embarrassed at the same bloody time. Girl, I would be embarrassed too. And then Nikki's like, don't worry, I will be getting all of my money back from David. All of it. I also think it's interesting that, like, as much as I understand that when you get married, what's yours is mine and what's mine is yours, but I'm like, Nikki, why are you being stingy over money you didn't make yourself? That's the end of that episode with those two. You guys, when I mean, just like, he's just so manipulative and so disgusting. And it's, you know, it's interesting, my sister, like, is mad at Annie. And so those of you who are mad at Annie and feel like Annie is the reason, like Annie isn't being smart, Annie isn't doing what she needs to do, like, my thing is that Annie doesn't have any kids, one, so she can make all the dumb decisions she wants to make. Two, she's only 24 years old. And maybe this is an opportunity of a lifetime to her to marry a foreigner so that she can be able to support her family. Like, there's so many other mitigating circumstances beyond this that we don't understand because we are not in her position and we will never be in her position. My sister's like so mad at Annie. I'm like, Annie's making choices and decisions and that somebody of her age would make. Also, they aren't the absolute worst decisions. Like, David is just a manipulator and she is going to be unhappy with him. But like, she's willing to put that on the line and kind of figure it out in order to do the bigger picture and take care of her family. And I can't knock that. I have to respect it. I have to. All right, guys, so tell me what you think down below, unless it's like something about her being a sex worker, because honestly, who cares if Annie is a sex worker? Like, who cares, you guys? Like, if that's something that really matters to you, then like, your point won't make sense to me. And also, sex workers are people too, and they deserve love. Like, I don't understand this whole like, she's just a prostitute and she met him here, and that doesn't have any bearing on her value or her worth as a woman or a human being. And if you really feel like it does, then, I mean, you're in a different place than I am. I'm not going to tell you to check your priorities and like do some soul searching, because you could have other circumstances in your life that tell you that that behavior is wrong or bad or whatever. You shouldn't judge anybody who is in the industry or does the job. It's not your body. What do you care? Let's have a conversation about this couple down below. That is it for this video. Remember to be you, be true, and find your place. Bye.